Hey, here we go then. Episode 6 of Kicking Off with me, Kevin Egan. Great to have you back with me, and I hope you and your loved ones are well. Charlie Davies is my guest today, former US number 9, a wonderful striker and a phenomenal story throughout his life and his career. Someone who faced lots of adversity as a young child with absent parents, trying to take care of his younger brother. Then when he became a star player for the US men's national team, his career and his personal life was derailed after a fatal car accident in 2009. Charlie bounced back somehow from that, married the love of his life, Nina, had 2 gorgeous young boys, and while they were in the NICU, after being born 13 weeks premature, Charlie was told he had cancer. You won't believe this story, yet Charlie somehow finds a way to smile and find the positives. He's a great inspiration. We're kicking off today with Charlie Davies. Charlie Davies, it's wonderful to see you, bud. How's the family and kids doing?
Everyone's great. Summer is always fun when you have twin boys. The beach, the sun, and my wife is loving life down in the Cape. So everything's good.
Oh, Cape Cod summers with the family. Can't beat
Yes.
that.
No, you can't.
You know, it could be somewhere else, though. It could be Kinsale. It could be Cork, Charlie, for you, because I want to touch on this. See this jersey here? That's the one you represented proudly.
Mm-hmm.
But it could have been this one, Charlie. Irish team. We had a pint in
Yeah.
Atlanta last year, and over a pint of Guinness, you told me that, and I couldn't believe it. What's the story with the Irish roots?
Yes, my great grandparents came from Cork, and so I've mentioned it many times because my mom always loves to tell me, we come from royalty. The great king of Ireland, Brian Berube, I believe that's his name. Brian Boru. And it's funny because whenever I tell Irish, I always say everyone says they're related to this guy. But fast forward to 2007, I get the opportunity to play in Cork for an Intertoto Cup, a Europa League qualifier. It was my first time playing in Ireland, and it was so great to go back to where my great grandparents came from. And I met so many lovely people. The atmosphere was great. The city was perfect. I loved everything about it, and we won. So that was the cherry on top.
Got to get you back there again sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
The pint of Guinness we had in Atlanta was decent. It's a shame
It was.
that bar has actually closed down since.
Oh no.
Not because of us, but the pint of Guinness back in Cork, I'm sure, is an awful lot better. Charlie, want to touch on your journey today because you truly are an inspiration. Everything you've had to go through in your life and come out with a smile and a happy family on top is just remarkable. So going back to your earlier days, way beyond your fame and your football career, what did life look like for you as a young, say, 10 or 12-year-old boy? Because I've heard your younger brother, Justin, call you a father-like figure. Why was that?
Yeah, it was for a 10-year-old, it was a very challenging time. My mother deals with mental illness, bipolar, schizophrenic. It's very scary for a 10-year-old, as well as my father was dealing with extreme drug addiction. So there'd be every other week, once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month. My father would leave for an extended amount of time, usually 3 days or so, and spend his paycheck in that whole weekend. And my mom would be stressed, and my outlet was playing the game of soccer. So I would spend the majority of my time outside with my younger brother, and keeping him close to me, and just having fun. It was like, let's play soccer, let's train, let's have fun with our friends. But, let's do as much as we can so we don't have to think about what's happening at home. And that's how we got through. And when I trained, I gave it everything I had. And it was Monday through Friday, even when my dad was home. He would bring me to the soccer field after work. And we would train from, let's say, 4:00 till 7, 8 p.m. every single day, Monday to Friday. And I'd always start with me doing a 2-mile run. And so when you see a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid every day running, 2 miles around the schools in Manchester, New Hampshire, I think initially kids are like, or parents, what is he doing? What is he training for? And it's for soccer. But no
Were
one
you were
plays.
you thinking about the future at that point, or was it simply an escape from your present day life?
Um, well, the dream started when I went to a World Cup game in 1994, and I was 8 years old. And I saw South Korea versus Bolivia. My father got tickets through work, and it just the passion, the fact that there was all different people, no matter what your skin color was, what you looked like, you were all together celebrating this beautiful sport. And the majority wasn't Bolivian or South Korean. It was just, let's go and celebrate this sport and what it does and what it means. It's a World Cup. And so from that moment, that was the dream. And along the way, you see, the top athletes from every sport. For baseball, it was always Ken Griffey Jr. That's who I admired. For track, it was always Michael Johnson and the gold shoes. For basketball, it was Michael Jordan. And so no matter who it was or what sport it was, those guys inspired me to be at that level. I aspired to be, playing at the highest level where all the cameras and lights were on you and you were doing what you loved and people were coming to watch you play. So when I was training outside, that was the goal. I knew if I want to be like them, I have to do this every single day. At the same time, I'm burning off all that frustration or anger I have from my situation. And that's what basically got me through, because I was always thinking forward and I always knew I got to put in the work, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. I think that's what separates me from a lot of kids, is some kids would do that work and they're like, oh, maybe it caused resentment. For me, I needed to do one more dribble or one more shot or one more hill run. And I saw how much joy my father had when he saw how hard I pushed and how hard I wanted. So there was also, I wanted to please him, because he was always telling me I was never good enough. Or if I scored 4 goals in a game, you could have had 5, you could have had 7. You missed all these opportunities, or you did this wrong. It was never, you were so good. Like, I'm so happy with how you went out there. Or, it was never, it was always like, you got to do better. You can't be satisfied with that. Don't settle. Like, keep going. I want more from you. And so, that was how I played, how I approached training, how I approached matches, soccer camps. My father would run soccer camps every summer, and he'd have a host of different kids from all over New Hampshire, Massachusetts come, and he'd play this World Cup game. So, which is probably the ultimate game as a child in America. You have, you pick a country, and you either can play with a teammate, and you are whatever country you choose, or you play solo, and it's a bunch of kids, one goal, a ball gets tossed out, and it's a free for all.
We played the same thing back in Ireland.
Yeah, you score, you come off, and you're ready for the next round. The last team who's left is out, and you do that all the way to the end. Whenever I played that match, I played like it was life or death. I was never losing, and I think my father just got a kick out of how no matter what we were playing for or who I was playing against, I wanted it more than anyone else. I wanted to be the best. And that's how I approached literally everything throughout my childhood.
You were a father-like figure at a very young age. And when you think about some other major stars in our game, let's pick a Neymar, for example, or his compatriot Gabby Jesus, they've had very tough upbringings in many ways. They've been hardened by their upbringings. And that discussion often surrounds US soccer as well, doesn't it? How pay for play, it's a cushy upbringing at times. Kids don't necessarily have that drive, that innate drive that you obviously had from a very young age.
Yeah, I mean, it was life or death for me. And I knew that was what was going to take me places. Yeah. And I was very fortunate when I was 12 years old. My father ran into an old friend of his who was running the math department at a private school, prep school, boarding school, and put the idea into my dad's head that this is a great place for Charlie to come to focus on his education as well as his soccer. And this will be able to take him places. I mean, this will give him the base, the foundation needed to have success in life. And so once he put that idea into my father's head, it was, this is where you're going. You're going there for 4 years. And at the same time, it was the perfect environment for me to grow and feel safe and be challenged and not have these distractions at home that could hold you back.
So you soar. You start banging in the goals. Boston College superstar. The numbers are absolutely ridiculous. And then I go back to a quote in one of my favorite songs, Charlie. It's called "Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen." If you haven't heard it, go YouTube it after this. I actually go to it. Genuinely, I go to this song for inspiration at times when I'm
Mhm.
having a bad day. It's something I listen to, and I always take away a different line from it. And there's a line in it that says, "The real troubles in your life are apt to be things that never crossed your worried mind, the kind that blindside you at 4 p.m. on some idle Tuesday." And I think we can all relate to that in some ways, you
Mhm.
far more than others, because October 13th, 2009 was actually a Tuesday. I kind of got chills when I looked that up earlier today. You were in a car crash,
Mhm.
a devastating car crash.
Yes.
Um, you a week later wake up from a coma, but without going into all the details, because I know you've rehashed it 1,000,001 times. But your life and your career was completely derailed at that moment in time. You rebuilt it, but for many people, you're not recovering from that. How, on your worst days, did you manage to reframe or lean on someone for help in order to just emotionally and psychologically get through the day with whatever smile you could offer?
It's something that you never prepare for, and I think, growing up as a child, as a youth, and seeing, my mother, try and commit suicide multiple times, having to rush to a hospital, and seeing her in a psych ward on a psych floor, that could haunt anyone's dreams, the people that you see her with, and then your father, on multiple times, caught red-handed with drugs, and being high around the house, and seeing that as a kid, uh, I think in a way prepped me for that moment, that was coming. And when I woke up in the hospital and I figured out what had happened, and it took a while, I knew you're faced with two options. You can let this moment define you and get the best of you, and there's no way to have joy in your life, and you just kind of sit in sorrow and kind of just let that dictate, every day, that pain, the feeling of not going, not being able to achieve, your dream that was literally in your palm of your hands, because the World Cup is the ultimate goal for any, professional footballer. And to have that at 23 and to know you're going to be a big part of it, I think, it's special. It's so special. And I may have taken it for granted. I did take it for granted. And so when I woke up and came to and realized what had happened, the only thing in my mind was, I got to get back up. There is no time to sit here and complain or ask why me. It's, you got to make up for this. Now is the opportunity to not take anything for granted, right? Is to get up and fight and fight tooth and nail and work as hard as you possibly can until you get back up and you get back on the field. Because I knew that there was doubts if I could even go for a jog again, let alone play professional soccer. And I don't think anyone knew, what was going to happen. So I said, you know what, I'm going to put this in my court, and let me dictate how far I can go. And I know I can get back on the field and have success. Will I be the same player? Who knows?
But
Probably,
you had about a
probably
nine
not.
month spell, right? You had about a 9 month gap there between October and say June, or when Bob Bradley was going to make the
Yeah.
announcement, what,
Mhm.
mid to early May. So it was probably enough time in your mind to say, I've got to get to work here, and having that motivation was everything for you at that time, wasn't it?
Everything. It was, you think about, how do I get up every day with all this pain? Initially, it was just, can I stand up for 15 seconds, 30 seconds without being dizzy?
Wow,
I had to
wow.
learn how to walk again. I remember standing up, and there was a woman who had a helmet on and was, in her 50s, 60s on crutches, like just cruising by me. And I'm thinking, I've walked my whole life. I can do this. And I couldn't move my leg. I couldn't move either leg. And it was almost like I had forgot how to move my legs, how to walk. And so after 10 minutes or so, I finally, I don't know if it was gained the courage or just with enough mind power, was able to move my foot in maybe 6 inches. And that was the first time I cried, and tears flew out of my eyes, because I realized, I think it was more so I realized how long this road is to recovery. It is going to be a challenge. And but I wasn't going to give up. I was going to make the most of every single day. And there were days where I was in so much pain, but I have to give all the credit in the world to my wife for being by my side every single moment, and the support system around me.
Tell me about your wife, Charlie, for a sec, will you?
Yeah.
Because Nina is someone who has faced her own adversity when she was younger.
Mm-hmm.
She battled through cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and she's that support system for you now. How would you describe her?
She's a rock. When people say, "Oh, they're my rock," she legit is a rock. Like, there's nothing she can't do. She's super talented, and just so passionate. She's always been family first, and she never really liked to talk about how she went through cancer, and in 7th grade, and 6 months of chemo and radiation, what that does to a 12-year-old girl. But she wanted to go to school. She didn't want to skip that year. She just fought through it. No matter how nauseous or sick she felt, she just powered through the year. And she is legitimately brilliant. She's so smart. And during that time, I think it just really caught everyone off guard. I was flying with the national team. I'm flying in France. I'm playing so well. Everyone, is thinking about where is my limit? What is my potential? Because I keep improving, and I keep adding things to my game. And I felt, after that Confeds Cup, and you get to see finally, how good am I, and where do I stack up against
Big
a
time.
Pulio or a Kaká or a Robinho, or some of these, Fernando Torres, David Villa, Lucio. So the world's best. And I felt, oh yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can have success against the best. And I'm just getting started. That's the way I was playing, the way I felt. And for my wife to get that phone call and say, hey, Charlie's been involved in a car accident, and kind of not know. She didn't know what my state was. All she knew I was in the hospital. And I think when she saw me and I'm on a breathing machine, in a medically induced coma, I think that just completely traumatized her. But when I woke up, she was the first person next to my bed. And, she told me, I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to help you get back to being on the field and enjoying life.
What a legend.
So, yeah, I mean, all those lonely, painful nights, she was right there helping me through it.
I'll never forget where I was that night, actually. I was sitting with my grandmother, who lives right by Wrigley Field in Chicago. And I was staying with her at the time, and we're watching the news before. She'd always go from news to David Letterman later in the evening. And she'd drink her glass of wine, and I was having a glass of wine with her, and it came up on the news saying there's been an accident. And I was like, this was obviously the day after. And I remember thinking, oh man, this is because I was watching you against Spain, beating the likes of Xavi in a semi-final. So that was devastating. The thing that did strike me, though, about your mentality and your character was the fact that most people, if they were to get through that like you did, would say, I'm just happy to be alive. And although you did do that, I would assume you still focus so much on getting back to where you were on the pitch. And that for me, it speaks volumes, because it wasn't the first time you had to do that. You had to do it again in 2012. And 2012 is mind-blowing. I like the crash in itself is, but then 2012, because your wife's pregnant with twins. She gives birth after 27 weeks, correct?
Yeah, in 2016.
Okay, yeah, excuse me, sorry. So 2016, excuse me, yeah. And you were also then straight after that told you had cancer. How and why? Like, just, you talk about breaks in life, and I don't know how you got through this one, being absolutely honest. And you did it together, so more power to you. Just what was going through your mind the day you had to tell your wife that you had cancer?
Yeah, that day, it feels like it was yesterday. 2016, I felt like, okay, this is the best I've been playing since my accident. You figure out a way to be effective on the field and make the most of what you have. And after the accident, I lost a step or two, maybe a step, probably 2 steps of speed. Still quite quick, but not lightning like I was before, and that acceleration and that power that I once had. So you still figure out ways of impacting the game, whether it's movements, holding the way I held up the ball, just seeing the game, making your teammates better, not only just by playing, but being a leader on the field. I felt like I was getting into that, and I was like, man, I really have a chance of hopefully getting called into. I just wanted to get called into one national team camp. That was my goal. Even though the World Cup wasn't going to happen, I thought maybe just one January camp. If that's like, the silver lining in all of it, it would be to come full circle and represent my country one more time. That's all I was chasing. And so heading into 2016, I thought this could be the year I do it. Because I was steadily making improvements and to start the year off, my wife, her water broke 5 days before the first game of the season in 2016. And it was 6 a.m. and I thought, what's going on here? She's like, I think my water broke. And I was like, no, it's not possible. We're at 25 weeks right now. That can't happen. And in my mind, I was like, I know it's the water breaking, but I was like, I don't think it is. Why don't you go to the bathroom? And I called the ambulance right away, the hospital. And they said, just bring her here as quick as you can. It's not a big emergency. Just come here. But I knew, okay, this is an emergency. So she got out. We drove to the hospital, and they said she wasn't dilating. So they'll keep her at the hospital. They'll give her steroid shots for the babies in case they have to be delivered. It gives them a better chance to survive as long as they can stay in for 48 hours after the shots. So after 2 days, the doctor said, we think she's stabilized. They're gonna, she's gonna be on bed rest in the hospital. You can go to Houston for the first game of the year.
Yeah.
I said,
Not Nina's parents, I'm sure, were around as well, were they?
Mm-hmm.
At the point they were able
So we talked it over. They said, we think you're okay. So I flew, scoring that first game against Houston on the road. I was like, okay, we'll get through this.
Did you do any kind of celebration?
Yeah, I did the good old rock.
You did the Mario? I love it.
And it was one of those moments like, I get to celebrate. Everyone dreams of celebrating for your children, and to do that was an amazing feeling. I come back, and it's that grind of going to the hospital every single day, spending your whole day there. You train, you rush out, get to the hospital, spend all day there, and then I was trying to sleep there as much as I could. It was so uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'll sleep there for 3 days. And then 2 days before I'll try and go home, or a night before I'll sleep at home. But it's a grind regardless. And I was happy to do it because it's my wife and twin boys. So it caught up with me. And so I pulled my groin in a match against Portland in the first half, and I go to get the scan, and everything seemed fine. I go in the next day, and my trainer said, they're going to need to do an ultrasound on you. And I'm like, ultrasound for what?
It's a groin.
Like, yeah, it's a groin. I already did the MRI scan. And they said, yeah, on your other groin, they saw a mass. And when you hear mass, you know exactly what that means. And I know he didn't want to spook me, but I also knew a look of concern. Yeah. So he said, these things come up all the time, incidental findings that usually don't, amount to anything. Let's go up there. So Patriot Place, right at the top of Gillette Stadium, they have a Brigham and Women's Hospital. I go up there to get the scan. I told the tech, I said, I know you're not supposed to tell me anything, but just give me a little nod if you think it's nothing, whatever. And she's like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. 15 minutes goes by.
No, not.
Nothing. Not even. I said, you find what you're looking for? And she says, yep. And then she disappeared for another 15 minutes. And then she came back and she said, good luck this season. And I thought, oh yeah, this isn't good. I went out to the waiting room, and my trainer was there, and I looked at him. I said, how bad is it? He said, yeah, you're going to have to go see a specialist in Boston. And at that moment was the lowest point of my life.
That was
The lowest point of my life was right at that moment, because my wife had called me just as I went into that to that scan to say, one of the boys latched on because she had given birth, and he's breastfeeding for the first time, so she was excited. So that moment, it was like, how do I tell her who's already, she's already done the cancer battle, to tell her while she has the kids, and it's a big day because it's a milestone for one of the boys to latch on, and I thought, I'm not going to live to see them grow up. So that was probably the biggest thing, because I thought I survived this car accident, where a lot of people don't even survive. I survived the car accident. I go on to play professional soccer after the car accident. So like, I just felt like I had been given this amazing gift, and it always comes to an end for everybody. And I thought I had used up, my 9 lives, so to speak. And that was the way I was thinking heading into that car. And so I didn't know how to tell her. I was in the car driving, and I'm like, do I tell her over the phone, or do I wait to get to the hospital and tell her there? But I knew she was waiting for me to call after that scan. And so I just gathered up the courage after crying for 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, and I told her the news. So we got there, and then the decision was like, what do I do next? What do I have? A liposarcoma, what is that? At first they thought it was testicular cancer, and it wasn't. It's a rare cancer that usually doesn't appear where it was found. And I changed from Mass General to Dana-Farber because Dana-Farber specialized in liposarcoma. And I think that was the best decision I could have made for myself, and for my future and for my family, because of their experience in dealing with sarcoma cancer. So yeah, I mean, it's literally, I'm 4 years cancer free, almost to the day. So yeah,
you gave yourself a nickname after the operation.
Yeah, One Nut Chuck. So it's like I said, that time I had surgery in the hospital. At the same time, the boys were in the hospital, just a different wing of the hospital. So after the surgery, the next day I walked over to see the boys, and I'm in a gown, and the moms in there who were in the NICU, or I think the nurses were all like confused, like, what's going on here? But
Charlie, just go back a second. So you've just gotten surgery on cancer, and your twin boys that were just born that are still in the NICU are across in a different wing.
Yeah.
Folks, let that sink in, whether you're driving your car or watching us here on YouTube. That is absolutely remarkable.
So my wife, imagine going to see me before I get knocked out, and then going over back to see the boys, because the boys were in the NICU for 92 days. So they were born on St. Patrick's Day, another,
of course,
a big ode to my Irish roots. Yeah. So they were there from March 17th to, I believe, June 14th or 17th, one of those two. And so June 14th. And so, yeah, it was quite the year 2016. And again, why my wife is just such a
warrior.
Yeah. She's just incredible.
It's such a beautiful family. You really have the most beautiful boys as well. They're two different looking lads, aren't they?
Yes.
Which one is the one with the longer hair?
Dakota.
Yeah, slick. I think we're gonna let our son's hair grow a little bit longer.
Yes, you should. We're letting Reese's grow now too.
Class.
Yeah, we're letting them both grow.
What type of dad do you want to be? Because I heard you say before you're not into doing dad jokes. Why not? What's wrong with dad jokes?
Yeah, there'll probably come a time, but as far as being,
you think you're still cool? Is that it?
I do. I do.
It's your first mistake, bud.
I still do. I'm gonna hold on to that for a while too. But these, I spoke about not forcing my kids to play, soccer, or forcing my kids to play a sport. Um, they love it, and I'm going to support them. And then as they submerge themselves into the sport and really want to get better, that's when I'll start to say, this is how you get to the goal. I can encourage you and push you without overdoing it. You don't want to be, I always, I've seen parents where they're over, they overpower these children and break their will or break their desire or the joy. I always had fun as much as I at times I was like, oh man, I'm really pushing myself and I'm working, but I enjoyed it. I want to make sure that they first enjoy what they're doing. And then um, always telling them that you can't get anywhere, you can't achieve anything without the hard work part. You can have fun, but you got to work. And the more you enjoy that hard work, the better it is for you. And the more likely it is that you'll achieve your goal.
Well said, man. Well said. I like to think that I'll emulate that as well, hopefully with James. I heard something with Cristiano Ronaldo not so long ago talking about the privilege that his son, say Cristiano Jr., has compared to what he had growing up in Portugal and the issues he had with his dad and his family. And he said it's going to be very difficult to instill that hunger in my son because he does now grow up in a life of privilege. And you can't replicate some of the hardships that you've been through for your boys. But I suppose you have to do what you can.
With stories.
Yeah.
That's all I can do is with stories.
Yeah.
I can show them just, whether it's working out myself, being dedicated. But I think that's the only way you can try and paint a picture for them to try and motivate them, inspire them. Or it could be as simple as bringing them to a Champions League match, bringing them to a World Cup match, bringing them to a finals, an MLS Cup final, whatever that may be, to make them understand the power of the sport and how great it is to move a nation, to move people who are in desperate need, and how you can help people. I think I always tell them how I go to the hospital and visit kids, and they always say, why do you go to the hospital and why do you visit kids? And just to tell them how much that means to a child who's sick or who's hurt and can't see their families or can't see their friends and need some type of conversation or needs someone to talk to, and the power that action has. And so they at a young age already understand humility, they understand love, they understand the passion of giving, how giving is better than receiving. And I think that's so important for them to understand, because you're right, they live a life of privilege compared to what how I grew up and what I had. So it's always important that they understand as much as they can at this age.
Yeah. We us five kids in our house were left wanting for absolutely nothing at all. We may not have had everything, but we're left wanting for nothing. And I often think back to my dad's stories of how he started his business, and someone who didn't go to college, and some of the hardships he had to face to get to where he got to. And as his son, I'll tell you, you take a lot from that over a pint of Guinness. At some stage, you'll be sitting with Reese and Dakota telling them your stories, and they'll kind of won't believe you. All they have to do with you, Charlie, is go to Google and figure it out. Hopefully this interview will still be around YouTube when they're older.
Yes, 100%.
If you're looking ahead to next year, Charlie, and let's say we have a vaccine, you're someone who always looks forward with positivity. So
yes,
we have a vaccine, the world of soccer. What can you look forward to in 2021? Is there any prediction you'd have in mind?
It's funny you ask that question, because I often think about how life will change after this pandemic, after this Black Lives Movement, and I think that people will have a firm appreciation of intimate conversations, of face-to-face time. Everything's done over Zoom now. Everything's done over the internet. Everything's done over the cell phone. I think after this is done, now we'll get back to having interesting conversations and getting to know people. Because I think right now, no one is getting an opportunity to make new friends or meet new people or hear, different stories. After 2021 and after this vaccine, I think there's going to be a real need and want and urge to get out of your comfort zone and meet new people. And for sports, I think the idea of how important and impactful you are, because there's a lot of self-reflecting going on during these times. And what can you do? What more can you do for the country, for the people in your community?
Like you said, go and visit those hospitals.
Yes. Like, why not? What else are you going to do with your time? Spend it wisely, because if anything, I think we've learned how important time is, because I think a lot of people during this time maybe realized they weren't using their time the right way, or they wish they had done something different, and how they can positively impact people's lives and communities and nations by small gestures that are so easy to do, like going to visit kids in the hospital, going to donate to certain charities or donate to a cause that makes sense. And I really do think that things will change for the better after this, because there's a lot of people that have been impacted in a tremendous way, whether it's by losing their jobs, losing family members, being put in prison, wrongly accused, police brutality. There's so many things that are bringing people together. And so I really do think things will change, and everyone will be better for this year, because as challenging as this year is, people always learn and grow. You always are learning and growing. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of restart and prioritize the important things in life.
Hear, hear. Well said. Charlie, if someone's waking up and they're having a really tough day and they turn this on, what's your message to them looking forward in their day and into the weeks ahead?
I'm a big, firm believer of thinking positive. Always think positive and have hope, because it's very easy to think negatively and be down about situations. And don't get me wrong, there are times where it's overpowering, and you can feel down. It's not that you're never going to feel down. There are moments where sometimes you need to feel down, but don't let that overtake you. Don't let that feeling overcome you. You have to think about the positive things to pull you through it all. Have that light at the end of the tunnel. No matter what the goal is, no matter what the dream is, have that push you through the tough times. Because if you keep working, if you stay positive, you're always going to get further than you possibly thought. I honestly think that the positivity always attracts the right people to your life that maybe can help you, because everyone wants to be around someone who's positive and has a good attitude or a mentality. And the people who typically think negatively and are down bring the wrong people around them. So if you want to be in a position to succeed, whether you do it on your own or you do it because someone comes and helps you and gives you that little nudge on the path to get you to where you need to be, the way to do it is with a positive mindset and mentality.
Charlie Davies, we'll leave it there. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. Continued success in your broadcast work. You're an absolute star, whether it be with ESPN, ACC, New England Revolution. One of my favorite things about Major League Soccer is meeting some of the fellow broadcasters around the country when we get to travel. And now the fact that you're on this path around the league is fantastic. So I look forward to catching up again. Thank you so much for joining me here on Kickin Off, and keep up the great work, man.
Thanks for having me, man. And I look forward to working together. At one point, we will be working together. I can promise you that.
Hope so. And you're going to teach me a dance move again, right? Because you made a.
I got you. Yeah, you need some help. The Irish was in you on those moves. That was straight from Cork.
It was. Charlie, take care, buddy. Chat to you soon.
Thank you.
Charlie Davies is truly phenomenal. What a story he is and continues to be. And I wish him nothing but the very best for him, Nina, and the kids, and moving forward in his broadcast career as well, because he's such a huge talent. I take away from this conversation the fact that Charlie's had all this go on in his life. Yet, when you meet him, he's got the biggest smile on his face. He always wants to have a laugh and have fun and find the positives. And it's such a lesson, because we face so many small problems in our daily lives and we can often get down by them. And it's okay to do so, like he says, but focus on the positives, keep moving forward. And he is an example of that. So Charlie, thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll move forward with the show. Next week, have a big one lined up again. Stay safe. We'll chat to you then. Take care.